Dr. Zara Kelvin stared at the data screen in front of her. The numbers made no sense. She had spent 20 years studying dangerous worlds across the galaxy, and she had never seen anything like this. The research ship Seeker's Dawn floated quietly. In space, inside the ship, Zara worked late into the night cycle. Her coffee had gone cold hours ago, but she did not notice. The data from the new world was too strange to ignore. The Galactic Union had rules for everything. They had spent thousands of years finding dangerous worlds and putting them into groups. Class Alpha worlds had poison air that could kill you in minutes. Class Beta worlds were too hot or too cold for most life. Class Gamma worlds had monsters that ate anything that moved. There were dozens of these groups, and every dangerous world fit into one of them. Until now, Zara pushed her brown hair away from her face and called up the classification chart. The glowing hologram showed all the known types of death worlds. She had helped write some of these rules herself. Each world got one classification based on its worst danger, but this new world did not fit anywhere. The door to her lab opened with a soft hiss. Commander Jake Morrison stepped inside. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes. Jake had been her friend for many years, and he could tell when something was wrong. "Still working on the mystery world?" Jake asked. He sat down in the chair next to her desk. Zara nodded. "Jake, look at this. The scanner data came in today from the probe we sent to the outer rim." She touched the control panel, and the hologram changed. Now it showed a blue and green world that looked almost peaceful. White clouds moved across its surface. It looked like the kind of world where people might want to live. "Looks nice," Jake said. "What's the problem?" Zara laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Watch this." She called up the detailed readings. The atmospheric scan shows the air has poison gases that should kill most life forms. That would make it Class Alpha. Jake frowned. "But you said there are signs of life there." "Lots of life. More life than we see on most safe worlds." Zara switched to the next screen. Now look at the temperature readings. Parts of this world get hot enough to melt metal. Other parts are so cold that the air itself freezes. That should make it Class Beta. That's impossible. Nothing could live in both places. Zara was not done. The geological scan shows active volcanoes, earthquakes, and unstable ground across huge areas. Class Delta. The weather system produces storms bigger than anything we have ever recorded. Class Epsilon. The magnetic field goes crazy and lets in deadly radiation from space. Class Zeta. Jake stared at the data. "You're telling me this one world has dangers from 6 different classifications?" 7, Zara said quietly. The biological scan detected life forms that should not exist. Some of them are bigger than our ship. Others are so small they could eat you from the inside. The toxicity levels would kill most species in minutes. Jake stood up and walked around the lab. This was what he did when he needed to think. "Have you checked the equipment? Maybe the probe is broken." "I ran every test I could think of. The probe is working perfectly. I even had Lisa Hayes check the marine biology readings and Carl Davis verify the atmospheric data. They confirmed everything. Dr. Lisa Hayes was the best marine biologist in the Union fleet. Carl Davis knew more about dangerous atmospheres than anyone alive. If they said the data was correct, then it was correct." Jake stopped walking. "What does the main computer say?" "It should assign a classification automatically." Zara touched another control. The screen showed a message that made both of them stare. "Error. World classification impossible. Nitrogen monoxide known category applies." "In 3,000 years of space travel," Jake said slowly, "the computer has never said that before." "Never, Zara?" "Agreed. Every dangerous world we have found fits into our system. We designed it that way. But this world breaks all the rules. Jake sat back down. Maybe it's not really that dangerous. Maybe the life there found safe places to hide. Zara called up another screen. That's what I thought too. But look at this. The life readings show creatures living everywhere. In the hot places, in the cold places, in the water, underground, even in areas with active volcanoes. Some life forms seem to move between different dangerous zones, like it's nothing. That should be impossible. It should be. But the data does not lie. Zara rubbed her tired eyes. Jake, what if we found a world that is so dangerous it created life forms that can survive anything? Before Jake could answer, his communication device beeped. He touched it, and a voice filled the lab. Commander Morrison, please report to the bridge immediately. We have an urgent message from Union High Command. Jake looked at Zara. Maybe they have answers. They walked to the bridge together. The bridge crew stood at attention when Jake entered. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez, the communications officer, handed him a data pad. Sir, High Command wants us to change course immediately. They're sending us to investigate that new world Dr. Kelvin has been studying. Jake read the message. His face grew serious. They're not just sending us. They're sending a full contact team. Dr. Kelvin, it looks like you're about to get a much closer look at your impossible world. Zara felt excitement and fear mix in her stomach. She had spent her career studying dangerous worlds from a safe distance. Now she was going to visit one that broke every rule she knew. There's something else, sir, Amy said. Long-range sensors picked up artificial signals from the planet's surface. Structured radio waves, organized patterns. It looks like that impossible world has intelligent life. The bridge went quiet. Everyone stared at the main screen, which showed the distant blue and green world. Jake spoke first. So we have a world that should kill everything on it, but instead, it's full of life. And now we find out that some of that life is smart enough to build radio transmitters. Zara nodded. Whatever lives on that world, they survived everything it could throw at them. And they built a civilization while doing it. The implications hit everyone at the same time. If a species could survive on a world with every possible danger, what were they like? How strong would they have to be? How tough? How smart? Set course for the mystery world, Jake ordered. And send a message to High Command. Tell them we're going to need more than just a classification for this one. We might need to write entirely new rules. As the Seeker's Dawn turned toward the impossible world, Zara looked at her data one more time. Somewhere on that blue and green planet, creatures lived and thrived in conditions that should have killed them. Soon, she would meet them face to face. She wondered if they were ready for what they might find. Captain Amy Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the exploration ship, Horizon's Edge. 3 weeks had passed since they received orders to investigate the impossible world. Now that world filled the main viewing screen in front of them. It was beautiful. Blue oceans covered most of the surface, with brown and green land masses scattered between them. White clouds moved in slow patterns across the continents. It looked peaceful and inviting. Amy knew better. The data report sat on her desk, filled with warnings about every kind of danger imaginable. This world should be dead, but instead it pulsed with life. Dr. Parker, what do you make of those radio signals? Amy asked. Dr. Ben Parker looked up from his communication console. He was a thin man with thick glasses who had spent his life studying alien languages. Right now, he looked confused and excited at the same time. Captain, I have never seen anything like this. These signals are not random. They show clear patterns, complex structure, mathematical relationships. But there are thousands of different types. Thousands? At least, maybe more. It's like this world has thousands of different intelligent species, all trying to talk at once. But that cannot be right. No world could support that many intelligent life forms. Emma Stone, the cultural analyst, turned from her station. She was a young woman with red hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Captain, I think Dr. Parker is wrong about one thing. I don't think we're seeing thousands of species. I think we're seeing one species with thousands of different ways to communicate. Amy frowned. Explain that. Look at the signal patterns over time. They change, but they change together. When one type of signal gets stronger in a region, others get weaker. It's like they're all connected somehow. Like different groups of the same species using different languages. Ben adjusted his glasses. That would mean this species has developed thousands of separate languages. That level of cultural diversity is unprecedented. Ryan Clark, the security chief, looked up from his tactical station. He was a big man with dark skin and scars on his hands from his years as a soldier. Captain, I'm more worried about their technology level. Some of these signals are coming from orbit around their planet. They have satellites, maybe even space. Stations. Amy felt a chill. A species that could survive on an impossible Deathworld and had space technology was not something to approach lightly. What's your assessment, Ryan? Unknown threat level. They might be peaceful explorers, or they might be warriors forged by their harsh world. We need to be ready for anything. The bridge door opened, and Dr. Zara Kelvin entered. She had transferred to the horizon's edge to lead the scientific team. Her face showed the excitement of someone about to make the discovery of a lifetime. Captain, we're receiving a new type of signal. It's different from the others. More organized, more deliberate. I think they know we're here. Amy turned to the main screen. Show me. The display changed to show a series of mathematical sequences. Simple at first, then growing more complex. Prime numbers, geometric relationships, basic physics equations. They're trying to establish communication, Ben said. This is a standard first contact protocol. Simple mathematics that any intelligent species would understand. Emma leaned forward. Captain, look at how quickly they responded. We've only been in their system for 6 hours. Either they were already watching space, or they learned very fast. Amy made her decision. Ben, respond with the same type of mathematical sequence. Let them know we understand. Emma, I want you to analyze everything we can learn about their culture from these signals. Ryan, keep all weapons powered down but ready. We don't want to appear threatening, but we need to be prepared. Over the next several hours, the mathematical conversation grew more complex. The aliens, whoever they were, seemed to understand advanced physics and mathematics. They sent information about their star system, their planet's properties, and basic facts about their biology. Captain, Ben said, excitement clear in his voice, they've sent us what I think are words from their languages. Multiple languages. They're trying to teach us how to communicate. How many languages are we talking about? I count at least 50 distinct language groups so far, and they keep sending more. This species has incredible linguistic diversity. Emma was studying cultural patterns in the signals. Captain, something interesting. The different language groups seem to compete with each other, but they also cooperate. I'm seeing evidence of trade, shared technology, even collaborative space. Projects. They fight and work together at the same time. Ryan checked his sensors again. Captain, I'm detecting movement near their planet. Several spacecraft are heading our way. Small ones, probably scouts or patrol ships. Amy felt tension. Fill the bridge. This was the moment that would determine whether first contact went well or badly. Open a communication channel on all frequencies. Let me talk to them. The main screen changed. Static filled it for a moment, then cleared. Amy found herself looking at a face unlike anything she had ever seen. The alien had 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth, arranged much like her own face. But the proportions were different. The eyes were smaller, the face flatter. Thin hair covered the top of its head. The skin was a light brown color. It spoke, and Ben's translation system quickly provided words on the screen. Greetings, visitors. From space. We are humans from the planet Earth. We welcome you to our system. Amy blinked in surprise. The alien looked almost familiar, like a distant cousin of her own species. I am Captain Amy Rodriguez of the Galactic Union exploration ship Horizon's Edge. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship. The human on the screen smiled, showing white teeth. I am President Kate Wilson. I speak for the United Nations. Of Earth, we have been hoping to meet other intelligent life for a long time. Will you visit our world? Amy looked around her bridge. Her crew stared at the screen in amazement. This was not what they had expected. The humans seemed calm, friendly, almost excited about meeting aliens. Most species were terrified during first contact. President Wilson, we would be honored to visit your world. But we must warn you, our scans show that Earth is extremely dangerous. How do your people survive there? Kate Wilson laughed, a sound that somehow translated clearly. Dangerous? I suppose it might seem that way to visitors. We have learned to live with our world's challenges. Perhaps we can show you how we adapted. Emma whispered to Amy, Captain, she's talking about adapting to a death world, like it's a minor inconvenience. Ryan checked his sensors. The approaching ships have stopped at a respectful distance. No weapons locked on us. They're maintaining a peaceful formation. Amy made another decision. President Wilson, we would like to send a small team to your planet to learn about your people and your world. Would that be acceptable? Of course. We have prepared a landing site at our main diplomatic facility. We look forward to learning about your people as well. The communication ended, and Amy turned to her crew. Well, that was unexpected. They seem almost normal. Ben was still staring at his translation data. Captain, the linguistic analysis is fascinating. They don't just have multiple languages. They have completely different ways of thinking about communication. Some groups use tonal languages. Others use complex grammar structures. Others rely heavily on context and cultural references. Emma nodded. And they all seem to work together, despite these differences. That suggests a species with incredible adaptability and cooperation skills. Ryan was more cautious. Or a species that learned to work together because they had to survive on a world that wanted to kill them. Captain, we should be very careful. A species that can thrive on a death world might be more dangerous than they appear. Amy looked at the beautiful blue and green world on her screen. Somewhere down there, humans lived and worked and built civilizations on a planet that broke every rule about dangerous worlds. Soon she would walk among them and try to understand how they had accomplished the impossible. Prepare the landing team, she ordered, and make sure we bring our best scientists. Something tells me we're about to learn things that will change everything we thought we knew about survival. As the Horizon's Edge moved closer to Earth, Amy wondered what other surprises the humans had in store for them. Dr. Nina Campbell stepped out of the shuttle and onto Earth's surface. The first thing that hit her was the smell. The air carried dozens of different scents, some pleasant, some strange, some that made her nose wrinkle. Her breathing mask filtered out the dangerous gases, but she could still detect the complex mixture that humans somehow breathed without protection. The landing site was in a place humans called New York. Tall buildings reached toward the sky, filled with millions of humans, going about their daily lives. The noise was incredible. Vehicles moved in organized chaos. Humans talked and shouted, and construction work continued despite the alien visitors. Nina's assistant, Dr. Troy Baker, stood beside her with his scanner in hand. His face showed the same amazement Nina felt. They had studied alien biology for years, but they had never seen anything like this. "Dr. Campbell," Troy said quietly, "the atmospheric readings are still showing toxic levels of several gases. How are they breathing this air?" Nina watched a group of human children playing in a nearby park. They ran and laughed and breathed the poisonous air like it was nothing. "That's what we're here to find out." Their human guide approached them. Dr. Alan Foster was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes. He worked for something humans called the Centers for Disease Control, which apparently studied threats to human health. "Welcome to Earth," Alan said with a smile. "I hope the air isn't too rough for you. We've set up a research facility where you can study human biology safely." Nina nodded. "Dr. Foster, our scans show that your atmosphere contains levels of carbon dioxide, nitrogen compounds, and trace toxins that should be lethal to most life forms. How do humans survive?" Alan looked puzzled. "Lethal? This is just normal air to us. Our lungs filter out the harmful stuff and use what we need. Has your species never adapted to atmospheric toxins?" Troy checked his scanner again. "Dr. Foster, our species requires carefully filtered air with exact chemical balances. Most galactic species do. Natural atmospheres are usually too dangerous." "Interesting," Alan said. "Well, human lungs evolved to handle Earth's air. We can survive in much worse conditions than this. Come, let me show you our research center." They walked through the city streets. Nina watched the humans around them with growing amazement. They moved with confidence and energy, despite living in conditions that should weaken or kill them. Children played games that involved running and jumping. Adults carried heavy objects while walking upstairs. Everyone seemed healthy and strong. At the research center, Nina met her first human test subjects. Rachel Green was a young woman who humans called an athlete. Mark Taylor was a man who participated in something called extreme sports. Both had volunteered to help the alien scientists understand human biology. "Before we begin," Nina said, "I need to understand your physical capabilities. Rachel, what activities do you do for exercise?" Rachel smiled. "I'm a marathon runner. I run about 26 miles without stopping. I also do strength training, swimming, and rock climbing." Nina's translator struggled with the measurements, but when Troy converted them, his eyes went wide. "Dr. Campbell, she's talking about running over 40 kilometers without rest." "That's impossible for most species," Mark laughed. "That's nothing. I do something called free climbing. I climb up tall rock faces using just my hands and feet. No safety equipment. Last month, I climbed a cliff that was 300 meters high." Troy sat down heavily. "You climb vertical surfaces for fun? Without protection? Why?" "Because it's challenging," Mark said simply. "Humans like to push themselves. We get stronger when we face difficult situations." Nina began her medical scans. What she found defied everything she knew about biology. Human bones were incredibly dense and strong. Their muscles contained fibers that could generate enormous force. Their cardiovascular system could pump blood efficiently, even under extreme stress. But the most amazing discovery was their immune system. "Dr. Foster," Nina said after reviewing the scan results, "these humans have been exposed to thousands of different pathogens. Their blood shows antibodies for diseases that would kill most galactic species. How are they still alive?" Alan nodded. "Humans are exposed to germs and viruses from Earth. Our immune systems learn to fight them off. The more we're exposed to, the stronger our immunity becomes." "You deliberately expose yourselves to diseases." "Not deliberately, but we don't avoid them either. Children play in dirt. Adults work in all kinds of environments. Our bodies adapt." Troy was studying the psychological profiles. "Dr. Campbell, look at this." The humans report actually seeking out stressful and dangerous situations. They call it adventure and sport and recreation. Nina interviewed more humans. Colonel Steve Adams had been a soldier in multiple wars. Paramedic Jenny Lopez worked in emergency medicine, dealing with injured and dying people every day. Mountain climber Beth Collins spent her free time ascending the highest peaks on Earth. All of them described experiences that would traumatize most galactic species. Combat, life or death emergencies, extreme physical challenges. But instead of being broken by these experiences, the humans seemed energized by them. Colonel Adams, Nina asked, you've been in situations where you could have died. How did that affect you? Steve thought for a moment. It made me stronger, more confident. When you've survived really bad situations, smaller problems don't seem so scary anymore. My unit used to say that what doesn't kill you makes you tougher. Jenny nodded. In emergency medicine, we see horrible things every day. But we also see people survive incredible injuries and come back stronger than before. Humans are built to handle trauma and recover from it. Nina's head was spinning. Everything these humans described went against basic principles of biology and psychology. Stress was supposed to weaken immune systems, not strengthen them. Trauma was supposed to damage mental health, not improve it. Physical challenges were supposed to wear down the body, not make it stronger. Dr. Ellen Wright, a human psychologist, joined the research team to explain human mental resilience. Dr. Campbell, Ellen said, humans have what we call post-traumatic growth. When we face serious challenges and survive them, we often become mentally stronger. We develop better coping skills, deeper relationships, and a greater appreciation for life. But trauma should cause psychological damage, Nina protested. It can, if the person doesn't have support and healthy coping mechanisms. But humans are social creatures. We help each other through difficult times. We share stories, learn from each other's experiences, and grow stronger together. Troy was documenting everything with growing amazement. Dr. Campbell, they're describing a species that becomes stronger through adversity. That should be impossible. Nina watched Rachel and Mark demonstrate their physical abilities. Rachel ran on a machine called a treadmill at speeds that should have exhausted her in minutes. She maintained the pace for over an hour while talking normally. Mark lifted weights that should have been too heavy for his body size. How long have you been training? Nina asked Rachel. About 10 years, seriously, but I've been active my whole life. Human children naturally run and play and climb things. We start building strength and endurance from a very young age. And you enjoy this physical stress? Rachel laughed. I love it. The feeling of pushing my body to its limits, getting stronger, accomplishing goals I couldn't reach before. It's one of the best parts of being human. Nina realized she was witnessing something unprecedented in galactic biology. Humans had not just adapted to their dangerous world, they had learned to thrive on the very dangers that should have destroyed them. Dr. Foster, she said finally, I need to understand something. Your species actively seeks out danger, stress, and physical challenges. You expose yourselves to diseases and toxins. You push your bodies and minds to their limits. Why? Alan smiled. Because that's how we grow. Earth taught us that survival isn't about avoiding danger. It's about becoming strong enough to handle whatever comes your way. We don't just endure challenges. We use them to become better. Nina looked around at the humans working in the research center. They moved with confidence and energy that came from a lifetime of overcoming obstacles. They laughed easily, even when discussing serious topics. They helped each other without being asked. Troy, she said quietly, I think we need to completely rethink our understanding of survival biology. These humans have discovered something that no other species has, how to turn adversity into advantage. As Nina prepared her report for the Galactic Union, she realized that humanity represented more than just a new species. They represented a completely different approach to existence itself. The alarm screamed through the research station, its harsh sound cutting through the normal hum of machinery. Matt Johnson looked up from his engineering console, his coffee cup still halfway to his mouth. The lights flickered, then dimmed too. "Emergency levels. Solar flare detected," shouted Lieutenant Beth Collins from the navigation station. "Massive electromagnetic pulse incoming. All systems are going to be hit hard." Captain Amy Rodriguez had returned to the station to oversee the joint research project. Now she watched in horror as the main computer systems began shutting down. One by one, the station's shields could not protect against this kind of solar activity. "How bad is it?" Amy asked. "Worst I've ever seen," Beth replied, her fingers flying over the controls. "The flare is 10 times larger than anything in our databases. We have maybe 20 minutes before it hits us fully." Dr. Zara Kelvin, who had been working late in her lab, rushed onto the bridge. Behind her came several alien crew members, their faces showing the panic that was spreading through the station. "Captain," Zara said, trying to keep her voice steady, "we need to evacuate immediately. The radiation levels are going to be lethal." Amy looked at the main screen, which showed the angry sun throwing streams of deadly energy toward them. "How long until the evacuation ships can reach us?" 4 hours minimum, Beth said. "The flare will hit us in 15 minutes. The bridge fell silent except for the continuing alarms. 4 hours was too long. Everyone on the station was going to die then. Matt Johnson stood up. The human engineer was calm in a way that surprised the alien crew members. While they were beginning to panic, he looked almost focused. "Captain, evacuation might not be our only option," Matt said. "I need to talk to Zextel about the shield." Generators. Zextel was a brilliant alien engineer with 4 arms and a body covered in gray scales. Right now, his normally calm demeanor was cracking under stress. "Matt, the shields cannot handle this level of radiation," Zextel said, his voice high with worry. "The generators will overload and explode. We will all die." "Maybe," Matt said. "But I have an idea. What if we don't try to block the radiation? What if we redirect it?" Security Officer Corinne White had joined them on the bridge. Like Matt, she seemed strangely calm for someone facing death. "Matt, what are you thinking?" "The station has maintenance tunnels that run through the hull. If we can manually adjust the shield emitters, we might be able to create a deflection field instead of a blocking field. It won't stop the radiation, but it might bend it around us." Zextal's 4 eyes went wide. "Manually adjust? You mean go outside the station during the solar flare? That is suicide." Matt shrugged. "Probably. But it's better than definitely dying." In here, Dr. Chris Nelson, the human medical officer, had been listening from his station. "Matt, the radiation exposure will be lethal in minutes, even in a full environmental suit." "How lethal?" Matt asked. "Fatal. No question. The radiation will cook you from the inside." Matt nodded thoughtfully. "Okay, so we need to work fast. How long do I have before the damage becomes irreversible?" Chris stared at him. "You're seriously considering this?" "Someone has to. Corinne, I'll need help with the manual adjustments. The shield emitters are too heavy for one person to move." Corinne nodded without hesitation. "I'm with you." Amy couldn't believe what she was hearing. "You're both talking about certain death to maybe save the rest of us. I can't order anyone to do that." "You're not ordering us," Corinne said. "We're volunteering." The alien crew members looked at each other in confusion and fear. Zextal spoke for all of them. "This behavior makes no sense. Why would you sacrifice yourselves for others?" Your survival instincts should be telling you to save yourselves. Matt was already moving toward the equipment lockers. Our survival instincts are telling us to solve the problem. If we all die because nobody tried to fix it, then nobody survives. This way, most of us live. Karen was gathering radiation suits and tools. Besides, someone has to try. If it works, great. If it doesn't, at least we went down fighting. Dr. Nina Campbell, who had been observing human behavior for weeks, watched this scene with growing amazement. The humans were not just willing to risk their lives. They were approaching certain death with calm determination and even dark humor. Matt, Nina said, your species continues to surprise us. Most intelligent life forms would be paralyzed by fear in this situation. Matt paused in his preparations. Fear is useful if it keeps you alive. But if you're going to die anyway, fear just gets in the way of doing something useful. The solar flare was getting closer. The station's outer sensors were already failing. Matt and Karen suited up in the heaviest radiation protection available, knowing it would not be enough. Okay, Matt said over the radio as they prepared to leave the station. Zextal, I need you to monitor the shield generators from inside. When I tell you to reroute power, you hit the emergency override. Matt, the calculations for deflection angles are incredibly complex, Zextal protested. We need hours to work out the proper settings. We don't have hours. I'm going to eyeball it. Eyeball it? Karen's voice came over the radio, and she was actually laughing. He means he's going to guess. Humans are pretty good at making quick decisions with limited information. The two humans left the station and began their spacewalk toward the shield emitters. Through the viewing ports, the alien crew members watched them work in the growing radiation field. They are going to die, Zextal said quietly. Yes, Amy replied, but they might save the rest of us while they do it. Dr. Chris Nelson was monitoring the humans' vital signs from the medical bay. Radiation exposure is climbing rapidly. They have maybe 10 minutes before organ damage becomes fatal. Matt's voice came over the radio, calm and professional. First emitter is in position. Karen, can you reach the power coupling? Got it. Adjusting the angle, ... now. Zextal, reroute power to emitter array 1. The alien engineer's hands moved over his controls. Power rerouted. Shield strength is dropping dangerously. That's the plan. We're not trying to be stronger. We're trying to be smarter. For the next several minutes, the humans worked with deadly efficiency. They moved heavy equipment by hand, made complex adjustments in bulky radiation suits, and coordinated their efforts while being slowly cooked by solar radiation. The alien crew members watched in silent amazement. The humans were dying, but they were not slowing down. If anything, they seemed to be working faster as the danger increased. Second emitter adjusted, Karen reported. Her voice was getting weaker, but she was still working. Third emitter ... done, Matt said. Zextal, when I give the word, activate the new deflection pattern. Matt, your radiation exposure is approaching lethal levels, Chris said over the radio. I know. How much time do we have? Minutes, maybe less. And we better hurry. Karen, you ready? Ready? Zextal, activate deflection field. Now! The alien engineer pressed the controls. The station's shields flickered, changed color, and suddenly took on a new shape. Instead of a simple barrier, they now formed a complex geometric pattern that seemed to bend space around the station. The solar flare hit them like a wave of fire. But instead of destroying the station, the deadly radiation flowed around them like water around a rock. It's working! Zextal shouted. The deflection field is holding. Radiation levels inside the station are dropping to safe levels. But Matt and Karen were still outside, still exposed to the radiation that was now flowing past the station. Chris watched their vital signs with growing alarm. "Get them inside," Chris ordered. "They need medical attention immediately." It took precious minutes to bring the humans back into the station. When Matt and Karen finally made it to the medical bay, they were unconscious, and their bodies were shutting down from radiation. Poisoning. Chris worked on them with alien medical technology, pushing the equipment beyond its normal limits. The alien medical staff watched in amazement as he used techniques they had never seen before. Dr. Nelson, one of the alien medics, said, "Their cellular damage is extensive. How are you stabilizing them?" "Humans are tough," Chris said, not looking up from his work. "We heal from damage that would kill most species. I'm using that." For hours, Chris fought to save his fellow humans. The alien crew members took turns helping, learning human medical techniques that seemed impossible but somehow worked. Finally, Matt opened his eyes. He was weak and pale, but alive. "Did it work?" he asked. "It worked," Amy said, tears in her eyes. "You saved everyone on the station." Karen woke up a few minutes later. She looked around the medical bay and smiled weakly. Well, that was exciting. The alien crew members gathered around the humans with expressions of awe and confusion. Zextal spoke for all of them. "I do not understand your species," he said to Matt. "You risked certain death for people you barely know. Most of us are not even the same species as you." "Why?" Matt thought about it for a moment. "Because you needed help, and we could provide it. Isn't that enough?" Nina Campbell, who had watched the entire crisis unfold, was already forming her final report in her mind. The humans had not just survived a disaster that should have killed everyone. They had turned it into an opportunity to demonstrate something the galaxy had never seen before: the willingness to sacrifice everything for others, even aliens they had just met. "Dr. Nelson," Nina said, "your species continues to amass." The great hall of the Galactic Union was silent as Admiral Patricia Moore walked to the speaking platform. Behind her, the massive viewing screen showed Earth in all its blue and green beauty. Around the hall, representatives from hundreds of species waited to hear what the humans would say. 3 months had passed since the solar flare incident. The story of humans risking their lives to save alien crew members had spread throughout the galaxy. Now the Union faced a decision that would change everything. Patricia looked out at the assembled delegates. She saw Zextal in the engineering section, still amazed by human problem-solving abilities. Dr. Nina Campbell sat with the Scientific Council, her research reports having shaken the foundations of galactic biology. Captain Amy Rodriguez represented the exploration fleets, which were eager to have human crew members on dangerous missions. But the most important figure in the hall was High Researcher Vex Tai, the ancient being who had created the galactic classification system thousands of years ago. His species had mapped every dangerous world in known space, and his system had kept galactic citizens safe for millennia. "Honored delegates," Patricia began, "I stand before you as the representative of humanity and the planet Earth. We have learned much about your civilization, and you have learned much about ours. Today, we must decide how our species will work together in the future." The hall was so quiet that the hum of the life support systems seemed loud. Patricia could see species from ice worlds bundled in thermal suits, gas-breathing delegates in protective bubbles, and energy beings that glowed with their own light. All of them were waiting to hear about the impossible humans from the impossible world. 3 months ago, your scientists came to Earth to study what they called an impossible planet. They found a world that broke every rule about dangerous environments. A world that should have been empty and dead, but instead was full of life. Patricia touched her control pad, and the screen showed images of Earth's most extreme environments. Volcanic fields where lava flowed like rivers. Frozen wastelands where the air itself could freeze solid. Deep ocean trenches darker than space. Desert regions hot enough to kill most life forms in minutes. What your scientists discovered was not just that humans could survive in these places, but that we had learned to thrive there. We had turned every danger our world could create into a source of strength. Double quotes. Dr. Nina Campbell stood to address the assembly. Honored delegates, our research has revealed something unprecedented in galactic biology. Humans do not just survive adversity, they actively seek it out. They expose themselves to stress, danger, and challenge because it makes them stronger. Murmurs rippled through the hall. For most species, this concept was difficult to understand. Consider their recreational activities, Nina continued. Humans climb mountains for fun. They dive into dangerous waters for sport. They compete against each other in contests that push their bodies to the breaking point. What other species consider torture, humans consider entertainment. High Researcher Vextai rose from his seat. The ancient being's voice carried the weight of thousands of years of scientific study. Dr. Campbell, are you saying that humans deliberately seek out the conditions that our classification system was designed to protect species from? Not just seek out, Nina replied. They have built their entire civilization around the principle that facing challenges makes them stronger. Their children play games that involve risk and competition. Their adults choose careers that involve stress and danger. Their elderly are respected for the adversities they have overcome. Patricia stepped forward again. High Researcher Vextai, your classification system has protected the galaxy for millennia. You have carefully cataloged every type of dangerous world and warned species to avoid them. But humans took a different approach. We learned to make dangerous worlds livable. The screen changed to show human settlements in Earth's most hostile environments. Cities built on volcanic slopes. Underwater research stations. Bases in polar regions where the temperature could kill an unprotected human in minutes. We built homes in places you classified as uninhabitable, Patricia continued. We found ways to extract resources from environments you marked as too dangerous to explore. We turned challenges into opportunities. Captain Amy Rodriguez stood to share her observations. During the solar flare crisis, I watched humans make decisions that defied every principle of self-preservation. They voluntarily exposed themselves to lethal radiation to save alien crew members they had known for only weeks. The alien delegates listened with growing amazement as Amy described the incident in detail. The image of humans calmly walking into certain death to help others was unlike anything in galactic history. But what amazed me most, Amy concluded, was that they treated their sacrifice as normal. When I asked them why they did it, they seemed confused by the question. To them, helping others in danger was simply the obvious thing to do. Zextal requested permission to speak. The alien engineer's 4 arms gestured expressively as he addressed the assembly. Honored delegates, I have worked with human engineers for months now. They approach problems differently than any species I have encountered. Where we see insurmountable obstacles, they see puzzles to solve. Where we calculate risks and decide tasks are too dangerous, they calculate how to make dangerous tasks safer. He paused, looking directly at High Researcher Vextai. They do not avoid dangerous environments. They adapt them to serve their needs. This is not recklessness. It is a completely different philosophy of survival. High Researcher Vextai was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice carried a note of wonder that surprised everyone in the hall. In my long life, I have studied thousands of species and classified hundreds of dangerous worlds. I have seen life adapt to hostile environments in many ways. But I have never seen a species that adapted by making hostile environments less hostile. He stood slowly, his ancient form commanding respect from every delegate present. The humans represent something new in our understanding of survival. They have discovered that strength comes not from avoiding adversity, but from overcoming it. They have turned their Deathworld into a garden through sheer determination and ingenuity. Patricia felt the mood in the hall shifting. The initial fear and confusion about humanity was giving way to something else, respect and perhaps even hope. High Researcher Vextai, Patricia said, humanity requests formal recognition in the Galactic Union, but we also offer something in return. We offer to help other species learn to survive in environments currently considered too dangerous for colonization. The hall erupted in surprised chatter. The idea of deliberately colonizing dangerous worlds went against thousands of years of galactic policy. Dr. Brian Hughes, who had compiled the final research reports on human capabilities, rose to explain. Honored delegates, consider the implications. There are thousands of worlds in known space that are rich in resources, but considered too dangerous for settlement. With human assistance, these worlds could become productive colonies. Furthermore, Hughes continued, humans have demonstrated the ability to remain calm and effective during crises that would paralyze most species. They could serve as emergency responders, rescue specialists, and crisis managers throughout the galaxy. High Researcher Vextai raised his hand for silence. When the hall was quiet, he spoke words that would change galactic history. For thousands of years, our classification system has been based on the principle of avoiding danger. The humans have shown us that there is another way, the way of overcoming danger. This requires a new classification. He touched his control panel, and the great display screen showed the galactic classification chart. For the first time in millennia, a new category appeared at the top of the list. Class Omega, Vextai announced, reserved for worlds so dangerous that they produce species capable of thriving in any environment. Earth becomes the first world. In this classification, the hall was silent again, but this time it was the silence of awe rather than fear. Patricia smiled as she delivered humanity's response. The people of Earth accept membership in the Galactic Union. We look forward to working with all species to explore new worlds and overcome new challenges together. Commander Alex Turner, who had been designated as Earth's first galactic ambassador, joined Patricia on the platform. As a former military officer who had served in some of Earth's most dangerous regions, he understood better than most what humanity could offer the galaxy. Honored delegates, Alex said, you have spent millennia classifying Deathworlds and learning to avoid them. We spent millennia living on one and learning to make it home. Perhaps it is time we taught each other what we have learned. As the formal ceremony concluded and the delegates began to disperse, Patricia looked around the great hall with satisfaction. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy not as refugees from a hostile world, but as the specialists who could make hostile worlds livable. Dr. Nina Campbell approached the human delegation with her final observation. Admiral Moore, there is one thing that still amazes me about your species. You have turned survival into an art form. But more than that, you have maintained your compassion and willingness to help others, despite living on a world that should have made you selfish and aggressive.